Hello, everybody. I'm Amy McCready. I'm the founder of Positive Parenting Solutions. We are the leading provider of online training for parents of toddlers to teens. And as you may know, October is National Bullying Prevention Month, and Positive Parenting Solutions is thrilled to partner with Kidpower to share 8 Kidpower skills to stop bullying. So whether you are here with us live or if you're listening to the replay, we welcome parents, caregivers, teachers, coaches. This session is open to the public, so we encourage you to share it with anybody who cares about safety for children. My promise to you is that you're going to walk away from this session with specific skills you could begin using today to keep your kids and yourself safe from bullying. So a few quick logistics for this session. We're going to go approximately 50 minutes and then spend another 20 to 30 minutes answering your questions. So on your screen, hopefully you're seeing me and you're seeing the slides. You also have a box for questions. So feel free to send in your questions as we go along. We're going to be collecting them and we will answer as many of those as we can during our Q&A time at the end. You should also see a resource box on your screen that has a bunch of links with really helpful resources that Irene will be referencing today. You can resize and move those boxes around on your screen however you like. There are also widgets at the bottom of your screen with more information. One important technical note, everybody, please close down your email, close down other browsers, close down Skype, anything that might steal bandwidth. Because we're streaming live video today. So let me introduce our expert speaker today. If I can pull up her slide, you are going to love our speaker today. Irene van der Zonde is the executive director and founder of Kidpower, Teen Power, Full Power International, a leading nonprofit teaching child protection, positive communication, and personal safety skills for all ages and abilities. Since 1989, Kidpower has protected over 4 million kids, teens, and adults, including those with special needs from bullying, violence, and abuse. Irene is also the author of many books, as well as a cartoon illustrated safety comics, which you'll see today, which you're going to love, and a curriculum teaching books used by families, schools, and youth organizations. In fact, we had Irene do a couple of sessions specifically for our online course members, and everybody loved her. So I'm sure you're going to love her as well. I also want to introduce Dr. Amy Tiemann. Amy will be answering questions in the Q&A box throughout this session. Dr. Tiemann is the co-director of Kidpower North Carolina and a member of Kidpower's International Senior Leadership Team. She's also the author of 4 books, including Mojo Mom, Nurturing Yourself While Raising a Family, and she is the creator of Courageous Parents, Confident Kids. Now, before I turn things over to Irene, I would love to kind of get a pulse and temperature from everybody here in this session. And so what I'm going to do is ask you a couple of questions. And the first one, hopefully you're seeing this on your screen, is has your child ever been bullied? All right, so yes, no, or you're not sure. Take a minute and weigh in on that. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome. So glad you're here. Please, I encourage you to close down other browsers. Close down your email, Skype, anything that might interfere with the video feed. So let's take a look at our results. Has your child ever been bullied? Wow. So almost 69% are saying yes, your child has been bullied. 20%, I'm not sure. So I'd say that's a really good reason for us to be having this session today. Wouldn't you agree? All right, so let me ask you the next question. Are you worried about your child bullying others? And I want to remind you that your responses are confidential. So weigh in on that. Are you worried about your child bullying others? So again, I see some questions coming in the Q&A. We're going to be collecting those and again, presenting those to Irene at the end for the Q&A period. Okay. So let's take a look at the results there. So 42% are concerned about your child bullying others. And sometimes that's bullying somebody at school. Sometimes it's a sibling. So a lot of you are concerned about that. So I would say this, whether you are concerned with your child being bullied or perhaps bullying someone else, this session is going to be filled with strategies you can use right away to keep you and your kids safe from bullying. So I'm so glad you're here. So Irene, it's with great pleasure that I turn things over to you so you can share the 8 skills to prevent bullying with our fabulous guests here.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. It is just a pleasure to be here. And and Kidpower has been around since 1989. We began after an incident that happened with me. This was a picture that was made by my daughter about the incident when my kids were young. My daughter was 7, my son was 4, and I protected this group of young children from a man who was threatening to kidnap them. I stopped him by yelling and by ordering a bystander for help. And as you can imagine, this experience left me with a lot of concern, even though from the kids' perspective, I yelled, the bad guy ran. And so I gathered with many wonderful people, educators, parents, law enforcement experts, healthcare providers, mental health people from all over the world to develop programs that would be effective and fun and empowering and be strength-based rather than fear-based. The number one question that people ask us is what do we do to keep our kids safe from bullying? They're worried about other things too. And I noticed how many of you were wondering, how will I know if my child's being bullied? We can't always read their minds, and they may not tell us. They may not want to upset us. They may think that they need to solve it themselves. They don't want to be a tattletale or a snitch. They're afraid of our overreacting. There's lots of reasons why kids don't speak up. And what we can do is notice changes in their behavior. Don't jump to conclusions, but notice changes in their behavior and keep our own awareness up about what is happening around them. Are they acting extra anxious? Do they suddenly hate going to school? I can remember one mother, it never dawned on her that another kid was making cartoons about her son where he was always getting killed, just cartoons. But of course, it was a story about him that all the kids were laughing about, and he suddenly didn't want to go to school anymore. You can help to prevent it getting to the explosion point by asking what we call the magic question, which is just once in a while in a calm way. Don't run out and ask your kids or wake them up in the middle of the night to ask. Just in a calm way, just say, is there anything you've been wondering or worrying about that you haven't told me? And if you sound calm, they're likely to tell you something, and it might be very trivial. But often kids start with little questions before they get up to the big questions about what's really bothering them. And so what we want to know is that we also want to set a standard for our kids. That's also a way to help protect them from being bullied and from being bullied ourselves, is by saying to ourselves and to our kids, you have the right to be treated with safety and respect, and the responsibility to act safely and respectfully towards yourself and others. By setting that standard, we are making it possible for our kids to know that we really care about their safety, and we're opening a door for them to tell us when they have problems. Plus, it helps increase our own awareness. A lot of bullying problems, a lot of people associate causing or threatening physical harm with bullying, being shoved or hit or tripped. But often it's even threatening. It's not just causing, or if a kid feels intimidated by another child on an ongoing basis or by a group of kids, that can become bullying. Bullying usually incidents are not one time, although hurtful and disrespectful behavior can have a big impact, even if it's one time. The normal definition of bullying is that it keeps happening and that there's a power imbalance of some kind. This is also true for hurtful teasing, that in this case, these boys are teasing Jenny because she has freckles. And they're laughing and joking, and for them it's fun and funny, but for her it's not. And if she doesn't say anything and it keeps happening, it can just make her miserable. Electronic aggression or cyberbullying can take many forms, and often kids do it without thinking about it because it's so quick, so efficient, and so anonymous, or it feels anonymous. It's not really, but they think it is. So it can be sending an embarrassing photo on a text, or it can be liking a page that talks in a negative way, or liking a comment that's very negative about someone. And it's like a wildfire. It can just spread so quickly and have such a huge impact on kids. We also, leaving somebody out, what we call relational bullying, is another form where it could be somebody excluding here. Lila would like to join her friends, but they're saying this is a private conversation, and just not making her feel welcome. It can take a form of gossiping about somebody or trying to hurt their reputation. And there's also prejudicial bullying, where people use any of these forms of bullying for reasons that have to do with how somebody is different in some way, and in their religion or their race or their sexual orientation or identity or whatever it may be. Picking on somebody for their differences in a hurtful way is bullying. And so now I know there's going to be a poll about.
Oh, sorry, Irene, I think I cut you off in mid-sentence. So, Irene has kind of talked about the different types of bullying, and it would be helpful, I think, for Irene to know what kind of bullying you are most concerned about. So, on the screen, you should see a list. Physical bullying, emotional, relational, prejudicial, electronic aggression, and again, there are some explanations, and you can select more than one. But please take a moment and weigh in on that. And Irene, while they are weighing in, I wanted to share a question or just a comment that came in from one of our guests. And she said, I was bullied as a child and I was blamed for letting it happen. And the bully confronted me for being a tattletale. So my goodness, this poor child is getting it from, all directions. So I think her comment really sets up beautifully what you're going to talk about next in terms of adult leadership. But I wanted to share that with you. And I'm sure that her experience is not unique. So everybody, thank you for weighing in. Let's take a look at the results. What kind of bullying is this group most concerned about? Almost 54% physical bullying, threatening, tripping, pushing, shoving, hitting. Wow, 83% are saying emotional bullying, 56% relational, leaving somebody out or hurting their reputation, and 13% prejudicial, and 25% electronic. So again, we're going to be talking about skills that help in a lot of these different areas, but Irene, hopefully that gives you a sense for what this group is most concerned about. So Irene, I'm going to let you take it back and continue on.
Well, thank you, Amy. And I want to say to the mom who wrote, and to all of you who have experienced bullying or who are worried about your kids being bullied, I'm so glad you're here. Uh, you know, this is misery and sometimes trauma or even tragedy that we can all do something to stop most of the time. In the context of what I'm teaching, I want to emphasize that adult leadership is needed, is required to keep kids safe. We can put signs all over the schools, and we can talk a lot about bullying, and we can worry a lot about bullying, but that's not the same as taking action, of paying attention to what's happening with our kids, of stepping in, of making it safe to talk with us about their problems, of advocating for them when somebody calls them a tattletale for speaking up, and for teaching them skills, which is what we're going to start with next. So we have 8 skills to stop bullying. They're described in a number of places, including this is one of our teaching books. And we'll start with the first skill, which is how you carry yourself in the world makes a huge difference on how well people are going to listen to you and on how much they're likely to bother you. We say to act calm, aware, respectful, and confident. Here in this picture, Kyle is being less aware, less confident. And the way we practice this is by closing our bodies down. You can do this too. Just close your body down and realize that when you're like this, you're less safe. And you can show your kids how to fix it, how to become more aware. Here, Kyle has his head up. He's looking around. He's taking regular steps and he's more aware. He can notice trouble if it's coming. He can get away from it, even if it's a ball coming at him on the playground or a kid starting to act aggressively. And he's more prepared to get away from trouble because he notices what's happening. Sometimes kids think that acting tough is going to make them more safe. But getting angry, acting angry, can escalate a conflict. And so we ask kids to notice how do you know that she is not being calm and respectful? She's got an angry face, her body's tense, maybe she's making a fist. And so we can even have kids say, okay, you get angry and aggressive. Let's practice going from this anger and aggression to taking a breath, straightening our bodies, and projecting a respectful attitude along with a confident one. So here she's got a calm, relaxed face. She's thinking. Her body's in charge and her hands are down. They're not up, they're acting like she's going to point at somebody or fight at somebody. Being aware does not mean staring people down. And this is important as kids get older, especially because staring at somebody or pointing at them can, again, come across as aggressive rather than respectful. To help kids remember our skills and to help coach them. So you teach the skills when kids are calm and when nothing bad is happening, but you can also teach these reminders. These are our Kidpower safety signals that you'll see, these simple graphics. And if you'll just point to your own eyes and then turn your head to look around. We do this. You can walk behind kids so that they turn and look at you and really have them turn their body. You don't have to act aggressively towards them. Just have them practice looking and being able to tell you what they're seeing. Maybe you do something silly for them to look at as they're looking behind you. So it's a playful game, but it's also an important one. I just was at a school where they said the kids now were noticing that the stay aware. They were like, oh, I need to stay aware, and pointing to their own eyes as they did it. We also want to project that attitude of respectful confidence. And sometimes once you've created this common language with your kids, you can just sit tall, smile, and say, now you're acting with respectful confidence. And that's a power. The next skill, once you notice trouble, well, you better move away from it rather than get close to it. So often adults too, will get challenged and they'll come over. Somebody says, hey, you, I'm going to get you, like in this picture. And a lot of times, sometimes they'll say, come over here. And a lot of times, not wanting to be seen as weak, kids will go over. And so will adults sometimes. And that creates conflict. It makes them less safe. So the simple skill of practicing moving away from trouble rather than being next to trouble can prevent a lot of problems from getting bigger. It's important that we set a good example because if sometimes teachers tell me that they can tell by meeting parents or watching them interact in the parking lot which kids are more likely to be bullying and which kids are more likely to get bullied. Reacting with aggression, fighting over things like parking places, makes everyone less safe. So we want to make sure that we're showing kids what we want them to do themselves. You can practice this by pretending to be trouble, like this teacher here, and just having the child, instead of walking right next to you, notice that Martin in this picture is making a circle, and he's also paying attention. And if the teacher comes towards him, he might tell her to stop. but he'll keep going, staying out of reach, even when she calls him to come back. So the safety signal to help us remember this is walk away power. Here you can just walk your fingers along your arm and leaving trouble, leaving a situation rather than staying close is so important. You can, sometimes we have kids practice this when they're lining up at school. And we have them imagine that somebody is getting aggressive, and they can, instead of getting into a conflict when somebody's pushing them, they can go to the end of the line instead of staying at the front of the line. They can use their walk away power. And for those of us who use wheels, be it cars, uh,
Uh, Irene, I just stole the camera from you again. I just had this thought that I just wanted to share with everybody. In the beginning of this session, Irene talked about the Kidpower safety and respect message, and I want to go back to that. I'm going to go, if I can find the slide, bear with me, everybody. And I believe that this is it. So tell your kids you have the right to be treated with safety and respect, and the responsibility to act safely and respectful towards yourself and others. And if you are a note taker, which I'm a big believer in taking notes in all of this, so I encourage you to write this down. Write this down. This can be one of your family values. This can be sort of that litmus test that we always come back to. Have we treated another person with dignity and respect? All right. Are we presenting ourselves in a way that is consistent with this message? So I think as Irene is going through all of these skills, as she describes a skill, bring it back to this safety and respect message. And we can just, I think, continue to build on this with all of the skills that she's presenting as you're sharing them with your kids. So that was just sort of this little aha moment that I had in the moment. So Irene, I'm going to go back to you. I think we are on, oh gosh, where are we exactly in Rollaway Power? I think this might be it. I'm just going to let you move the slides ahead because I think that I've messed you all up. But I'll let you take the camera back and move the slides ahead to where they should be.
I am absolutely not messed up a bit because I think I really appreciate Amy for you to just emphasize how this fits, because I sometimes get caught up in the skills, and it's important to, yes, we want to be we want to learn the skills, but we have them in a context. They are there for a reason. So again, roll away power is you can roll your fingers on your arm. I have to find where the camera is. And this also is great when a child uses a wheelchair, to include them by saying, okay, you can walk away power, but if you use a bike or a car or wheels or a wheelchair, you can use roll away power. And suddenly the kids are feeling included, and that's important. Skill number 3 is to set boundaries. Giving kids the words to say to speak up when somebody has been unsafe or disrespectful is like giving them a piece of magic sometimes, because sometimes they don't speak up for themselves or others because they just literally don't have the language for doing it. In fact, adults often say that this helps them to speak up when they see unsafe or disrespectful behavior. So it's simple, and practicing with kids is simple. So here Jamila's being teased about her scarf, and her friends are saying, stop, that's an unkind thing to say. You can also say, please be respectful, or name the behavior and say, that's bullying, or that's an unkind. How you say it makes such a difference. This is where we come back to our attitude of respect and confidence and awareness. Because if you say, stop, that's not safe, that's not going to work very well. And again, if you go, hey, that's not safe, then you're escalating the confrontation. So you just want to keep a peaceful attitude and an assertive one, and have kids practice saying in a regular voice, looking right at you, stop. That's not safe. There's lots of situations where you need to set boundaries. It can be speaking up for your rights. If somebody grabs your arm, now we do teach skills for pulling your arm away without hitting the person if somebody grabs your arm. But if in this case he's more being verbal, and she can say, he's saying, you have to let me go first, and she's saying, no, let go of my arm, it's my turn. And again, having kids out of the heat of the moment is that we're practicing how to say this while you're pretending to be the person bothering them. Or with young kids, you could use a puppet to pretend. And then coaching them in what to say and do is giving them better tools for handling the situation when they encounter it in real life. We also give kids in a situation where here the McGill is thinking it'll be a big joke to text an embarrassing photo to everybody. And Marie Claire, the girl, is saying, no, that might be funny to you, but it's not funny to him. Again, speaking up, setting boundaries for safety rather than just and rather than just letting things go or feeling paralyzed, or worse yet, getting caught up in the behavior. So this is making a fence. It's putting your hands. A fence is when somebody is crossing your boundaries, making you uncomfortable, or you think they might be their behavior might be disrespectful or unkind. It's not specifically where you feel threatened, but it is where there's an emotional threat of some kind or a relational threat. The signal is speak up power. And it's funny, you'll see kids sometimes do this before they actually speak up. I forgot to put this one in, but it's so simple. Some teachers start the day, they push their hair back and they say listening power, but we've got a safety signal for that. And we do have a link where you can download all of these safety signals for free. So listening power is important because not only do you want to set boundaries with other people, but you also sometimes need to set boundaries for yourself. And remembering your listening power helps you to do that. You want to have the skill of using your voice in a loud and clear way. Now, I'm not going to shout here because I have no idea what the camera will do with it. But we do have kids practice shouting low from their belly rather than up here from their throat. And shouting, if you don't, you might think kids don't need practice yelling. And that's true a lot of the time. But some kids, when they are under emotional pressure, when things are going wrong, that's when they need a chance to practice yelling. And again, the words to say, stop, no shoving, or go away, or I'm leaving now, this isn't safe, is a way of being powerful and strong with your voice. Really yelling in an emergency, really yelling, stop, leave, help. Again, I'm not going to yell, but practice with your kids. You can warm up their voices by doing what we call the no game, where you start in a whisper and each gets louder, louder, and louder until you're really yelling loudly. And then you can move it towards, you can just start with yelling no, but then go to words like stop, leave, help, which is the message we want to communicate to the world and to the other person when we are having a situation that's making us feel really unsafe. So yelling can also be used to help protect other people. In this case, some kids are getting in a fight on the playground, and instead of doing what the one girl's doing and going, yeah, fight, then Miguel's yelling, stop, we need help, and hopefully we'll get the attention of the yard duty teacher who is off in the corner of the schoolyard looking somewhere else. So our voice is a very, very powerful protection tool. And sometimes we have kids practice we imagine that somebody's blocked them in the bathroom. And because a lot of times kids will come and say they felt scared because they were trapped in the bathroom, kids weren't letting them get out. And being able to yell, leave me alone, stop, even yelling help, and yelling the name of the child who's bothering them and what that child's wearing can cause that child who doesn't want to get caught to leave quickly.
Irene, I was just going to pipe in here with a quick comment. So, for anybody who has more than one child, I'm sure you have some form of sibling fighting, competition, rivalry from time to time. And we hear from a lot of parents that it gets quite physical. And very often, parents will describe that it's one child who tends to be doing demonstrating more of the aggressive behaviors. So, all of these tools that Irene is talking about, please use those tools in managing the sibling relationships, like using your speak up power and your walk away power. There are no victims, right? So we want to make sure that everybody is standing up for themselves with their big voice and their assertive look about them, and walking away when it's not safe or they've another person has crossed a boundary. So all of these tools, again, we can be using to help our kids work through their sibling conflicts as well. Okay, Irene, I'll give it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Amy. One of my favorite sibling stories is a teacher who came learning how to teach these skills in school. She went and taught them at home, and she overheard her older son yelling at his younger brother, "I am using my stop power. I'm using my speak up power. I want you to use your walk away power and leave my room right now." And her younger son did. So giving kids, the tools and the chance to practice them can help at home as well as at places like school, away from home. The fifth skill is to protect your feelings by throwing away hurtful words. If we do not protect ourselves, hurtful words like stupid or I don't like you can go in our hearts or our heads, and they can stay there for a really long time. It's if we tell kids, how many of you have ever been told just ignore it, and they'll raise their hands, and we say, so, and how well did it work, and they'll say it didn't. And that's because hurtful words, hurtful behavior, like communications can be facial expressions as well as words, are intentionally trying to make you feel bad. And if somebody's doing that and you take it inside, you don't protect yourself, you don't do something with that energy, then it can get stuck and it can leave you feeling really sad. And kids understand this. And we have different social stories that show this with kids of all ages. We started this with young kids, the Kidpower trash can. Now I teach it to college students, to corporate executives, because feeling badly about something unkind that somebody said to you, or an unkind communication in some way, is hard for all of us. So here this girl is throwing away the words, I don't like you, in a real trash can. And she's putting her hand on her heart and she's saying, I like myself. There's different kinds of trash cans that we've taught kids. This is the Kidpower trash can. You put a hand on a hip like this, you use the other can, you catch the hurting word and you throw it away. And it might be ugly. He's throwing away ugly, and he says, I look great. It could be a word like stupid. You catch it, you throw it away, and you say, I'm smart. There's so many different ways that the trash can be used, and I bet you'll find yourself doing it yourself after this webinar. Kids have invented for us many different kinds of trash cans. This is the mini trash can. This little hole here, that's the trash. And then again, the other hand is going on your heart, or you're doing it in your head, and saying, this is here, she's throwing away the word stupid and saying, I'm smart. What we're all heading for here, because really on the schoolyard, younger kids have had the Kid Power trash can or in families, they're using it all the time. And they've invented a lot of them. These are just a few. We're heading to the imagination trash can. And here, some really rude language that I couldn't put on the screen is getting said. And Martin's walking away with awareness and imagining throwing those very hurtful words away. With kids, when we're practicing, if they're tormented by a word that they're not normally allowed to say, maybe a curse or swear word, it's important to practice with the real words. I know that we don't normally want kids to use those words, but if they're being tormented by them and we can't say them aloud to practice with, we're giving enormous power to a set of sounds. And for young kids, I mean, when the word crybaby can be just as upsetting as curse and swear words are. Really taking the time to, in one class, I had a little boy who the trash can wasn't enough, so he needed to take that word crybaby. We wrote it down. He tore it into pieces and he threw those pieces in the trash to help him say, everybody cries. Grown-ups cry too, as he was literally throwing the words away. But as we get older and more experienced, we can just imagine throwing hurtful words away. We want to be able to throw away the mean things we say to ourselves. We are being respectful to and safe with ourselves and others. And if we're calling ourselves unkind things like fat with Rosa here, then she can throw that word away and say, I'm beautiful. I'm beautiful the way I am. She may have, we work with one of our board members, is a pediatrician who works with young people who have extra weight. And she says, she teaches this technique to them because unless they can feel good about themselves, just the way they are, it's harder for them to make healthy lifestyle choices that might make other changes with their body. But you've got to start with really valuing yourself. So this is trash can power. Again, this is your mean word catcher. You catch the hurting word, you throw it into the trash can, and you say something good to yourself. On an adult level, if you think about it, maybe mean words are like trash. And if we let that trash land on us and get inside of our bodies, maybe eat it, we get sick. So we catch the trash, we throw it away, and we wash our hands, which is like giving an affirmation and saying something good to yourself. And here's heart power, which is taking those kindness into your heart, using your heart to stay kind and connected with others, and protecting your heart from the lack of kindness or meanness from others or from yourself. Inclusiveness. So many schools talk about inclusiveness, and I like to use the term positive inclusiveness because sometimes kids are asked to include somebody who's acting really unsafely. And then this is where the adult leadership comes in because we need to help that child. Maybe that child is coming in and being really mean to all the other kids. And if we just say you've got to, or throwing a temper tantrum in the middle of a game, then we've got to support that child in better social skills. And we can also support the kids in speaking up, in saying, let him play or let her play. There's always room for one more. Once I asked a group of second graders to give me examples of how kids got left out, and they had a whole list of them. And you can ask kids this too. What are the things that kids say to leave somebody out? It might be, you're not good enough. And then you can practice saying, I'll get better if I practice, or he'll get better if he practices, or he cheated last time, or she cheated last time. And you can have kids say, we didn't agree on the rules. Let's make sure we agree on the rules. So giving kids the words to say, to speak up for positive inclusion, and kids who want to be included, having the tools they need to make that work is important. Sometimes you can't speak up in the moment, but if somebody's being left out here, Kyle is feeling sad and that nobody cares about him, And Jesse is coming up and just reaching out to him because he's feeling left out. And encouraging kids to do that with other kids can make a real change in the social climate of a school or a youth organization or a team or even your family. Let's reach out to people who feel left out and find ways to include them positively. Skill number 7 is to be persistent about getting help from busy adults. So often, here this little boy was bullied. He was the one that you saw at the beginning who was crying about kids calling him a loser. And so often, adults are busy. And kids need to know that when they have a safety problem, they can interrupt and keep asking. You even teach kids the word persistence, that it means not giving up. You don't give up when you're setting boundaries. You don't give up when you're asking for help. And the signal we ask kids to use and not misuse is this is about my safety. This is about my safety means I'm going to stop what I'm doing. I'm going to be interrupted. I'm going to get off the phone and say, excuse me, or stop texting and say, excuse me, my child needs help. This is our signal. For kids, we say a lot of times grown-ups don't hear you at first, and we have them persist by having grown-ups say, go away, I'm busy, or I told you not to interrupt me, so that they can keep asking because they deserve to have help. And if they're not able to be treated with safety and respect, or they're having trouble being safe and respectful towards themselves and others, we want them to know that this is a time when we're there to give them support. Tattling, the word tattletale, I think it should become obsolete in the vocabulary of educators and the vocabulary of parents. And we show kids the difference because it's used so often that he or she's going, teacher, and that is not going to get the results you want. That's not the same. And maybe she's talking about some other kid doing something that had nothing to do with her, or not really, or something a problem she could have solved another way. I asked one Montessori school director what he did when kids started telling what used to be called tattling. And he said, I just say, are you telling me because you want me to do something, or you just want me to know? And he just moves on from there. And if they keep doing it, he says, you've already told me, and thank you. Telling, though, we want kids to know that if kids are being unsafe on the schoolyard, if somebody's bullying somebody else, that they're going to tell, even if somebody told them not to. That that safety, adults are in charge of what happens in a family, at a school, in a team, in a youth organization. And ultimately, it's our job to support the kids when there's a safety problem. Again, kids have to be prepared to keep asking, even when the adult says, solve it yourself. Then we teach them to say, I did try, and it didn't work. I need your help, and to stay calm rather than whiny when they do it, which is great practice for all kinds of problems in life. So this is get help power. Your hands are up. You're reaching out. You might be reaching out, making a bridge between you and the other person in order to get the help you need. So physical self-defense is the 8th skill. We do teach it as a last resort when you're about to hurt and you can't leave or get help. Our book, One Strong Move, or our classes teach a whole range of skills for emergency situations. And you need to talk with your child about when in a bullying situation where we teach some less serious techniques, when in a bullying situation, it is okay to be physical, to stop somebody from hurting you. It's not, we say you're not allowed to do this, or you have to promise. We have to actually have kids promise not to do this when they're frustrated or annoyed with somebody, or about name calling, but when they're really worried about getting hurt and they don't have the option of leaving. So here is me, Lynn, trapped in the bathroom, and this guy saying, give me a hug, and she's yelling, stop, it's another kid, an older kid. And if he doesn't stop, if he doesn't let her out of the bathroom, then she can use a two-handed push away or a one-handed heel palm right to his chest. And this is a bullying type move because it's unlikely to injure him, but it is likely to um, make him very uncomfortable. We had one story of a mom, her daughter was 12. She was developing breasts. These boys kept grabbing her breasts, and she kept telling them to stop. The school didn't do anything about it. She put her in our class. She wrote to everybody, to the school board, to the principal, to the counselor, saying, "You haven't protected my child. I have taught her to protect herself. And if that happens, I don't want her kicked out of school." And sure enough, when this girl got her breast grabbed, she did it one heel palm, and it ended months of harassment, and she did not get kicked out of school. So, but if a child does, because they might be worried, you can say, if you get, if you have a 3-day suspension for protecting yourself, then we'll spend 3 nice days together, because you deserve to be safe. And hopefully it won't go that far, but it gives kids a lot more confidence to avoid situations when they know they can protect themselves physically sometimes. And then, of course, once you have done it, you want to leave and get help. You want to go right away and tell an adult what happened. So another technique is a shin kick. Again, if you've ever hit your shin on a coffee table, you know it hurts. Very unlikely to cause injury, but very likely to get somebody to stop and give a child time to get away. Again, this is all in a context of our leadership as adults. One of the things we'll tell teachers is, suppose that you have a huge anti-bullying program. You've done a lot of talking about what bullying is, and you've got these signs all over your school. And imagine it's the end of the school day, you're all tired, you're done, and there are some kids being mean to each other as you're walking out of the school ground. Their parents are standing nearby. If you walk by without saying or doing something such as, "That's not safe," or "This needs to stop, this isn't okay," then you're putting a lie to all those signs. It doesn't mean anything, because kids don't have a choice about being lots of places like school. And so we need to take responsibility for working with them to create a safe school or youth organization, recreational, or home environment. This means if your child is being bullied or bullying, or you're worried about it, our first job as adults is to stay calm. We teach kids this to help them stay calm and make wise choices, but you can press your palms together, straighten your back, take a breath, and let it out again. And using calm down power for yourself can help you to then listen to your child and say, "I'm so glad you're telling me this, and we're going to figure out what to do." If you act upset when they come to you with a problem, they may be afraid you'll make it worse. A lot of times kids tell us that their grown-ups' reactions make things worse. So you have to start with being calm and then figure out a plan with the child so that it doesn't happen again. You want to stop unsafe behavior. Here, stopping somebody from hitting, with the same commitment that you'd stop kids from throwing a stone through a window or rubbing food into the carpet. We have to, we prepare kids. We help them to solve problems on their own. We coach them in how to do it, but we need to stop that unsafe behavior if it's actually happening, because it can create a lasting dynamic that just gets worse without help. So here, if a child is doing the bullying, then we want to practice ways of being safe with your body. In a situation that I just showed you, we don't actually know what led up to this. We just know it wasn't safe. So we would have both kids practice using their hands down power, using their feet down power, using their walk away power, using their mouth closed power, to stay safe with your body. And rather than, and sometimes for kids who do bully, we work on their underlying needs, help them meet those needs another way. Sometimes they just need something like weight power. Holding your own hand is weight power because they get impatient and they need some help with how to manage that. Coaching in the moment when kids are getting in, when the conflict starts to arise, you teach the skills away from the moment if you can, but you can remind a child to use their speak up power if they're getting stuck. We want to have them have the opportunity to work it out, but nobody learns something just one time, usually. If we teach kids to wash their hands, they don't regularly and reliably and thoroughly wash their hands without quite a bit of coaching. And the same is true with other skills that relate to safety and to health and well-being. You want to keep your radar on so you know what's going on with your kids. And here, everybody's texting, and this little boy is feeling quite alone. If you can put your technology down, talk with your kids, listen to your kids. I just had a teacher tell me that she goes knocking. She sees kids waiting with their parents in the car for the beginning of school, and the kids are in the back seat in car seats or seat belts, and the parents are texting. They're not talking with the kids. The kids are just sitting there. And she says, I knock on the window and I say, your kids are right here with you. It's the beginning of the school day. Talk with your kids. Spend some time with them, and that'll help them do better in school. It'll also help keep them safe from bullying. We don't want to label kids, not with words like the bully. We talk about bullying, not the bully, not bad kid, not mean girl. We don't name kids victims. We don't want to name them tattletale. Instead, we talk about the behavior and help them make a plan for managing that behavior. We want to water with our attention what we want to see grow. We do it with plants, but with our attention and our appreciation. If we only tell kids when they're not being safe, then that's what they're getting attention for. So we want to say is, you were really strong in how you spoke up. Good for you. You did a great job of listening. That was, I know that was hard, and I saw you do it. So that we help them to see that we're noticing all of their behavior and not just pulling weeds for the bad behavior that we don't like, but going for the behavior that's going to help keep them safe most of the time. Kids need us to, they need to know we care, and we are so busy that out of many years of doing this work. We were incorporated as a nonprofit in 1989, and we've been doing it ever since. We've come up with this promise. We've got videos. In fact, Amy McCready has a beautiful video that'll soon be up on our website, Making the Kidpower Protection Promise. And we have a poster we'd like you to share and use. It goes like this, and I'll say it to you because we see safety as an ongoing conversation, and you can email us anytime about safety problems if you can't find the answers on our website, or if it's just kind of overwhelming, or just if you don't know what to do. And that is to say to our kids and to say to each other, you are very important to me. And if you have a safety problem, I want to know. Even if I seem too busy, even if somebody we care about will be upset, even if it's embarrassing, even if you promise not to tell, and even if you made a mistake and did something wrong, please tell me, and I will do everything in my power to help you. So I encourage you to really make that promise and commitment to the kids in your life, and to encourage others to do the same. We have centers all over the world, and actually this is where we have people teaching our skills, and where you can come to a class and practice these skills together. But you've done the most important thing, just being here right now with this webinar and learning these skills and sharing them with others and using them with the kids in your life. But we do have many other resources that you can also access through our website and our books. And now back to Amy.
Thanks, Irene. And Amy Tiemann, if you could send through the questions now, that would be awesome. And I will share them with Irene. So just a couple quick things that I want to just mention before we do the Q&A. I want to go back to the slide that Irene shared. Water what you want to see grow. I just can't emphasize this enough, particularly for those of you for whom you are concerned that your kids are the ones doing the bullying. And if maybe that's happening at school, it may also be happening at home as well. Or just for your kids who tend to exert their power in negative ways, maybe to a sibling or just with general misbehavior. For those kids, they get a ton of negative, discouraging feedback. And remember that perception is cumulative. The more of that discouraging feedback they hear, they start to internalize it and they become that feedback. So water what you want to see grow. Find opportunities to encourage your kids when they are behaving appropriately, when they're demonstrating kindness or empathy or whatever it is. Our goal is for 80%, at least 80% of what comes out of our mouths to our kids every day to be positive and encouraging. We want to minimize the corrective feedback because again, if that's all they're hearing, that's who they believe they are. So again, on our website, positiveparentingsolutions.com, there's a ton of information on that, on encouraging phrases that you can use with your kids. But please make a really intentional effort to do that. A couple other quick things. On kidpower.org, they have a ton of free resources. I encourage everybody to sign up for their community membership. It's free. There's like no reason not to. So again, they'll send you information. You can get a lot of this information that Irene has talked about. Also on your screen, there are links where you can download the Kidpower Promise. I love that. Please use it with your kids, share it with teachers and coaches, anybody who cares about adults. So Irene, I'm going to sort of tee up some questions to you, and for our guests, I'm going to ask you to just be patient with the back and forth camera thing, but we found that this is kind of the way it works best. So here's a question, Irene. My daughter is the only person of color in her first grade class. She plays alone and has not made strong connections. Recently, her classmate told another girl that she was only pretending to be my daughter's friend and has since stopped talking to her. How can I help my child through this time of rejection? So Irene, if you can take that, that would be great.
Wow, what a hard thing to happen. That's really sad. Um, and I'm wondering, so first of all, of course, you've done the first thing, which is saying, I'm so glad you're telling me this isn't fair, and we're going to figure out what to do. I think that at first grade, they're 6 years old or 7 years old. That's not very old. I think talking to the teacher about maybe doing something that shares some cultural traditions or that celebrates people of color and making, making your daughter the star of that, and or of people looking at their own heritage and saying we are all, have something in our background to be proud of, lots to be proud of, is one way to help. Identifying a couple of kids in the class that you think might be friends, inviting them for a play date can help. Having the teacher understand that this is bullying. This is bullying when a child is singled out, targeted for differences. And sometimes, and what you can tell your daughter is that the girl who said that she wasn't really her friend might have been doing that under social pressure because she didn't have the courage to say, but she is my friend. It might have been pretending, but it's much more likely to have been that she did enjoy playing with her. And then she got scared that she would be made, left out also. So creating opportunities, I think that this is where adult management, really watching kids, pairing your daughter up with some activities to get to know different kids and making sure other kids pair up, and not letting kids say, oh, I don't want to be with her for any reason. This is an adult leadership job. If the teacher can't do it, you might, I don't know if your situation is that you could volunteer once a week in the classroom, and because then you're much more connected with what's going on and can help overcome. If your daughter's now feeling rejected and maybe shy and discouraged, she might need support in making a connection and in not viewing everybody through the same lens. If the situation doesn't get better with some intervention and help on your side and on the teachers, it might be worth looking at changing schools or changing classrooms, because sometimes it's like a jar that's got started to get screwed on in the wrong way. And you have to unwind the jar and start over to get the lid on properly. Sometimes that happens. And if she's still, it's still not working, or at any time, if you're and she are feeling really upset about this, we're strong believers in a few sessions of professional counseling with somebody who is able to provide support to both of you, can help to get through a hard time like this. This is a hard time. This would be hard for anybody. And I think telling her she's really brave and you're really proud of her for letting you know, and for having her, and if other kids call her tattletale, just teach her to throw that away. We've got 8 emotional safety techniques that we practice on. Didn't have time for all of them here, but there's an article, a free article on our website that you can access that covers these different emotional safety techniques in addition to the trash can. And I'm ready for the next.
Irene.
I'm ready for the next.
Okay, thanks, Irene. Okay, so a couple of questions about children with ADHD or other differences. Kelsey says there's a boy in 2nd grade. His parents are divorced. He's on ADHD meds. My son said he is a bully, but is there still such a thing as being a mean kid? What's the difference? So can you address how to use these skills with children with ADHD and other differences, and just any other comments that you have regarding Kelsey's question?
It's a great question. It comes up a lot. So what you can do is, again, work with the teacher about about, and the way you frame it is, instead of labeling that child a bully, you can say, I'm so sorry. Your son has his reality. And you can say, I am so sorry that he was mean to you. It looks like he's having trouble being safe with his body or his words. It might be both. And trouble being safe with your body or words means that it doesn't put that label of bully on it. And to say, so with your son, you practice the skills of saying stop, leaving. He has the right to protect himself. With the school, you want to say, this is a child who's having trouble being safe with his body. Sometimes schools have somebody with a kid with special needs shadow that child for a while and intervene to help them remember hands down power, calm down power. This is mouth closed power, just not saying something mean, and closing your mouth. And that can, so that you're addressing the problem, which is that this child is not being safe with his body and or words. And at the same time, you're helping your son learn some great skills. And so for people with kids with special needs, it's not that they can't learn these skills. We work with programs with kids on, with really severe disabilities on all ends of any kind of continuum you want to discuss. And we find that with some support and coaching, it just takes extra coaching, extra support to learn that impulse control and to learn how to apply it in a regular way almost all the time. So that would be my short answer for that question.
It's hard to do short answers, isn't it, Irene? There's so much to talk about on these topics. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 questions to answer. So the first one is from Liz. At what age should we start having this conversation about bullying? And then the second question is about from Tanya, how do we safely break up a physical fight? So, and this is really for older kids. They're fighting with each other. How do you safely break that up? So if you could comment on those two, Irene, that would be great.
Oh, okay. So with a conversation, I use the word bullying when I'm acknowledging the reality. But what you really want to start back with is that safety and respect message. You start that conversation about safety and respect and being kind with your words and calm and safe with your body as soon as a kid can understand you. I can be as young as 3. We teach kids, parents sometimes, say, they'll say mine or gimme, and to practice saying in a regular voice, excuse me, may I please use that? Or you'll have to wait till I'm done, or please wait, or more space, please. Kids at a very young age can pick up these skills as soon as they can talk and understand well enough to do so. The idea of bullying is, that's we want to be preemptive about that. We want to make it about unsafe or disrespectful behavior. And then if they're in an environment where maybe, I mean, I have had people talk about bullying in preschools and come to us for help with that. And there, your job is to advocate for your child. So you want to know when anything, whether they name it bullying or not, unsafe or disrespectful happens, you want to know. You want that information so you can help them figure out what to do, or you can celebrate with them that they handled it and figured it out for themselves. I can remember one girl saying, this this kid stopped me on the slide and said I had to let him climb up the slide when it was my turn, and he said he wouldn't invite me to his birthday party, and he'd tell all the other kids not to invite him to their birthday parties if I didn't let him climb up the slide and have to walk down the ladder myself. And because she practiced, she was able to say that I hope you'll change your mind. That's your decision. So giving kids the words to say, to speak up in a situation. And I got so caught up in that question. I am sorry, I forgot the other question. So,
I'm sorry, Irene, that was my fault. I shouldn't have given you two at a time. So the other question was, how do you safely break up a physical fight between older kids?
very, very important. All right, so first of all, you don't get in the middle of the fight. If there are 2 people fighting, you don't want to be in between because that's where the fighting is happening. Try to start with your voice. Yell, yell, stop! That's not safe. Call the kids' names and yell. And you might need to practice doing that. Come close, but be aware of fists coming behind. If that doesn't work, try to get other adults to help you if it's a real big fight and they're just so caught up. Usually an adult yelling to stop. That's not safe. Put your hands down, put your feet down, move away from each other. Giving short, simple commands will stop most fights between kids. If it doesn't, then if you can have other adults helping you, that's great. Whether you can or not, to physically stop a fight, put a hand on his shoulder. I can't exactly show you this. From the outside, so you're not coming inside, you're from the outside, and gently pull a child back. It is older kids. If they're younger and smaller, you can just kind of pick them up and move them away from each other. But if they're older and they're that caught up in fighting that they can't take verbal commands, you have to protect your own safety while you're protecting the other kids. But there are, you can learn some intervention techniques. I'm just giving you again the short answer. Be from the outside, move a shoulder back without trying to wrench the shoulder. Put a hand quickly in between. Breaking eye contact between kids can actually stop the fight if you can do it quickly and not get hit yourself, just like that. So those are just a couple of quick tips about how to safely stop a physical fight.
Thanks, Irene. This next question is, well, they're all serious questions, but this one is especially serious. Um, a dad is concerned because he feels like his daughter is, having thoughts of suicide. This bullying started when she was in first grade due to a skin condition that she had. So the kids told her that she couldn't eat with them, and then they couldn't be friends with her. And many years later, she doesn't have friends. She doesn't think she can have friends. And dad says, sometimes she wants to commit suicide because she has no friends. They've tried counseling and it hasn't helped. So, any specific recommendations for this family? But also, can you address, when bullying gets to a really serious level, kind of what we do at that point? So, I'll turn it back to you.
All right, so first of all, I'm really sad that this is happening with your daughter. She doesn't deserve it. You don't deserve it. What you can do now, and then we'll go back to trying to, stop things from getting to this point, is you can, if she's in a toxic environment, change the environment. There's nothing more important than your daughter's life. It might be that you go on a trip together. It might be that you homeschool for a while. Sometimes families do that. I know it's a big commitment. Um, there are therapists, and we have an article that I got lots of input from different therapists on about how to choose the right therapist for your child and for yourself. And I encourage you to read that article, and I will send the link to Amy. So I think I did send it, but I'll send it again. And we also have an article written by an adolescent child psychiatrist called Protecting Your Children from Suicidal Thoughts. And it addresses how you can speak up in the moment when a child, of course, you take it seriously. We have to take it seriously. And what we can do to help to redirect a child's thoughts and to help them get, again, the right kind of professional help. In terms of changing the environment, if a child at any age is in a toxic environment and it's for something like a skin condition or any kind of disability or difference, then we want to address that with the school if we can. The adult leaders there need to understand this is prejudice. This is against the law. And actually, schools in many states have to now provide alternative education, have a child go to a different school or pay for counseling. You might need legal help with how to make this happen, but you have got rights. Children with any kind of difference are entitled to an equal right to a safe education. And so we want to know what our rights are. We want to protect those rights with the kids. We want to name it for what it is. It's prejudice. And so, and again, you might choose to take a child home or to go to a different school. I know families where they got the funding to put their kids in quite an expensive school because an alternative safe place wasn't there. For your daughter, we work a lot with people whose bodies are different, and we teach them that in nature, it's not the rocks or the trees or the mountains that look the most the same that we call the most beautiful. It's those that are the most different and that are weathered by time or weathered by something happening. And so that if she can start to learn to see herself as beautiful just the way she is, that's a piece of the answer. And at first, she's not going to accept that idea at all because kids usually don't. And thinking about it often makes them more uncomfortable. They wish the problem would go away. They go into denial, and then they don't want to talk about it or deal with it. But you're the adults, and so you can insist that she gets help, and that if one therapist doesn't work, you find another, and that you're going to be there to support her, and realize that acknowledging that you can feel worse at first when you talk about a problem because it makes you think about the problem, and so being able to help her understand that can make a difference. So yes, I'm so glad you're with us on this call, and I wish you the best. And feel free to write to us at safety@kidpower.org if you need more support or guidance with how to find resources.
Thanks, Irene. And everybody, we're trying to send the link out to all of you with regard to how to find a therapist. And I do want to echo what Irene said. Don't assume therapy doesn't work because it didn't work the first time, whether it's an issue about bullying or your child is suffering with anxiety or ADHD or whatever the situation is. Please keep searching until you find somebody that can be helpful for your child. And Dr. Amy Tiemann told me that she did send the link out to everybody, so hopefully you have that. Okay, Irene, next question. This is from Kai. My 8-year-old son is tiny for his age and easily bullied physically, being picked on, etc., being picked up. There were many incidents where he was mistreated physically at school, but he won't tell the teacher, being afraid of revenge. What should he do? So if you could tackle that one.
A lot of kids are afraid of revenge, and it's a school's job to not let that happen. So at 8, again, that's just not very old. So I would encourage him though, because he's gonna get in trouble if he hits back. I would encourage him to develop more physical confidence regardless of his size. If you're where you've got a Kidpower Center, that's great. You can come to one of our classes. We do have an article about how to choose a good self-defense class because we find that when kids have the confidence to defend themselves effectively, they're less likely to need it. He does need to walk away from a fight, and you can practice with him, giving him a nice foundation of self-defense skills. You can also practice with him those walk away with confidence skills. In terms of speaking up with adults, he doesn't get to choose. He gets to either you do it together, or at this point, if it's gone on this long, I would encourage you to go and just say, I'm sorry, you have to. Kids need to be safe at school. You need to be safe at school. And you tell the teacher and you say, we're going to protect you from revenge. And that means we can have the teachers paying attention. They don't have to say that your name, even used your name. Or if it's a situation where they have to, because he's the only kid that's getting pushed around by this kid, sometimes just having an adult pay attention and watch that child, and nobody needs to tell you. You see the behavior. But if a school doesn't do that or they can't, then you say to the school, either you keep protecting him from revenge, or you've got to pay for him to come to a school where it is safe for him, because he deserves not to be physically picked on and bullied at school. But a lot of times getting that, just the awareness, being aware, noticing trouble, moving away from that trouble, yelling, setting your boundaries, and feeling strong and powerful inside your own body and confident can help prevent the attack from happening. So those are a few ideas for now. And again, if none of that works, write to us with more specifics, and we'll do our best to help.
We also just sent you a link for finding a good self-defense program. So thanks, Amy Tiemann, for sending that out to everybody. So Irene, another great question here. What is the best way to deal with parents who are actually demonstrating bullying behavior and teaching their kids to bully as well? My daughter is friends with our neighbor's daughter, and I find it very often my daughter coming home feeling sad due to the parent telling her she can't play with her daughter when other girls are there playing. So can you comment on that, how to deal with bullied parents and the impact that has on our kids?
We often get requests from kids who are being bullied by neighbors, neighborhood kids, neighborhood parents, adults being bullied by neighbors. If you can, and this isn't easy, make a connection with this mom, and you can give it a try though. What have you got to lose? You can go, you can say, I'm wondering why you're not allowing my daughter to play with your daughter. Is there a problem that we can work out? Because we're right next door to each other. And it'd be nice I'd like to make your daughter welcome in our house and our daughter feel welcome with your daughter. And there may be a specific problem that can be worked out. Maybe you invite this girl over a couple of times. And maybe this family's just not going to work. We're not all going to, if you label the behavior bullying, you're going to get a defensive reaction from that mom. So what you want to do is talk about what she's saying. My daughter says, a lot of times she can't play, and I want to understand what it's about. So I won't let her go and be, so that I'll know when not to send her. Maybe it is that you have to call before you send her over to make sure this mom's in a space to receive her, or that her daughter's in a space to receive her. And then often, as sad as it is, sometimes there's neighbors we just can't be friends with, and we go find other friends. And that's again a great life lesson for kids. If one person is not going to be your friend, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means you need to find another friend. And you can find social groups or youth groups to be part of. So those are some things you can try. And I wish you good luck. And don't try not to assume what the mom's intentions are. It may be overwhelmed. Sometimes people are so overwhelmed that they're thoughtless and unkind. And bullying behavior often comes out of unmet needs for adults as well as for kids. We can't fix all of that with other adults, but we can at least reach out to them and see if it's possible to make a better relationship.
Thanks, Irene. The next question is about the parent actually doing the bullying. So the question is, how would you address when a parent teases or bullies their own child? My daughter's dad feels he is toughening her up by teasing her. Any thoughts on that?
So if you're still in the same house and you're still together, it's in both cases it's an education job. What we want, this dad, who I assume loves his daughter, he's trying to toughen her up for the real world. He may well have been bullied himself. If you're still in a relationship, which wasn't clear from the question, then you can work on education. Actually, either way, you can talk about the adverse childhood experiences study, which shows that kids, it was a federally funded study with 17,000 adults who experienced trauma that has caused lasting health problems because of adverse childhood experiences, including bullying. You can tell him that it's making her miserable and she's starting to feel badly about herself, and that what you both want, is the same thing. You want a healthy, self-reliant child. And it turns out that instead of trying to toughen kids up we wouldn't say, let's toughen kids up by making them sick. We'd say let's inoculate them in a way that's safe for their bodies. And that's what practicing skills can do. So instead of trying to toughen her up by really teasing her, which makes her believe that he means it, and he might at some level mean it, he can do something different. He can help her become strong by working with her strengths and by practicing ways to protect her feelings in a situation where it's clearly pretend and he's not doing it for real. And when it's set up as a practice, not something that's just inflicted on her when she's in the middle of doing something else. This takes quite a bit of boundary setting and of dealing with negative reactions. It's normal for people to react negatively. I don't like being told I've done something wrong, and I bet most of you don't either. I've learned to, go through my ouch or ick or I wish it hadn't happened, and to be appreciative of feedback. But when somebody hasn't done that kind of work or hasn't applied that work to their family, sometimes they're great at it at their office, but not so great at home, then we have to be prepared for negative reactions, like you're overprotective. The answer to that, by the way, is you throw that word away. This is the dumpster, by the way, overprotective parent, and you say, "I'm doing my job." So you speak
Hey everybody, I think Irene's video just froze there for a minute. So Irene, I'm taking back the camera to give you one more question, and then we're going to wrap up. I want to just share when we finish where you can get that information. So Irene, one other question, hopefully you're hearing me. My son considers every act or every slight to be an act of bullying. Some of it's just 7-year-old kids not having fully developed social skills. How do I explain to him the difference between bullying and maybe not so nice behavior without belittling his feelings? So any thoughts on that, Irene?
Okay, well, I'm hoping you can see me. I can see and hear me just fine, and I heard and saw you just fine, Amy. Well, you acknowledge his feelings. You start there. You say that sounds.
I'm back again. So for some reason, Irene's video seems to be freezing up. So I'm going to maybe see if Irene can come back on one more time. I want to remind everybody to definitely go to Kidpower and sign up for their free community membership. I also want to thank everybody for being here. Remember, October is Bully Prevention Month, National Bully Prevention Month. And so we are going to be sending you the link to this replay of this session. And so we encourage you to share it with other parents, with coaches, teachers, any caring adult who might be interested in this information. We'll also have the link available on the Positive Parenting Solutions Facebook page, as well as the Kidpower Facebook page. So Irene, I'm going to see if you can come back on. There might be something going on with your internet connection, but let's see if we can get.
Am I back? I hope so. I see myself. I see you, Amy.
Oh, unfortunately. Okay. I'm going to have to say goodbye for Irene. So I know Irene would say, thank you so much for being here. Your kids deserve to be safe and to be treated with respect. And the fact that you are here in this session says so much about you as a parent. So thank you for spending this time with us. I hope it was valuable. Do download all of those links that we've sent. A couple of the links we sent to you in the Q&A area. So if you haven't found them, where to find a therapist, or how to select a therapist and find good self-defense programs, look in your Q&A widget and you should find it there. So again, everybody, thanks for spending this time with us. Thank you for being role models and the kind of adult leaders that our kids need. Have a great rest of the day, and we're just delighted that you spent this time with us. Thanks, everybody.